You can listen to The Professional Left wherever you get your podcasts, on Netroots Radio, or at our website, proleftpod.com, where you can also contribute to this podcast. There's a PayPal button at our website, or you can mail us a letter and or contribution at P.O. Box 9133, Springfield, Illinois, 62791.
This is the podcast for the week of October 24th, 2025. It's not safe for work.
Recorded live from the Cornfield Resistance, where the October birthday extravaganza ain't over yet. It's The Professional Left with Drift Glass and Blue Gal.
1 week left until Drift Glass's 65th birthday.
That's correct. That is correct.
Next Thursday. We're so excited. Happy birthday, Drift Glass.
I just want everyone to know I will be running a shameless birthday fundraiser on my site.
Yep.
For all of my special needs, coffee and whatnot.
Coffee is it at this point, with coffee going up to like $16 a can.
Yeah. I'll be running a coffee fundraiser. At my
Thanks,
site.
Trump. Yes.
Yeah, that's all Trump. That's entirely
It's all Trump. And by the way, thank you to all the people sending us $5 via Venmo.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
The Venmo app, search for Pro-Left Pod, at Pro-Left Pod. We're there. Our picture is there for that account. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people have sent us just whatever, spare change was in. Some people, they get paid $5 for lunch or whatever, and it's sitting in there. And sending it to the Pro-Left Pod is an easy way to support us. And we really appreciate it. And we do not gather or sell your information to anybody else. No. We just go, wow, thank you. That's great.
No, that's what you get.
Yeah. Now, we have some sad news. And before we getting on to anything else, we do want to extend our deepest sympathies to the family of Darren Bailey. He is a conservative Republican in Illinois, and we do not agree with him on anything. But this is from NBC News Chicago. Quote, Illinois gubernatorial candidate Darren Bailey's son, daughter-in-law, and 2 grandchildren were killed in a helicopter crash, his campaign said Thursday. Bailey's team announced the fatal accident in a statement posted on X on Thursday. On Wednesday evening, Darren and his wife, Cindy, received the heartbreaking news no parent ever wants to hear. The statement said their son, Zachary, his wife, Kelsey, and their 2 young children, Veda Rose, age 12, and Samuel, age 7, tragically lost their lives in a helicopter accident in Montana, unquote. They have a 3rd child who was not on this trip.
Right.
And boy, am I praying for that kid.
Just utterly tragic.
Utterly tragic. And we know for a fact that Darren Bailey is a man of faith. And while we very much disagree with him on politics, we sincerely hope his faith will sustain him and his family in the face of this utter tragedy. And we are thinking of him in that way.
Exactly. This is the time to grieve together and share our common humanity.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
Now, we have to transition to other stuff.
Yeah.
So we're going to spend a few minutes cataloging just a fraction of the corruption of the Trump administration, which, when you take it in its totality, is a little bit like visiting the Grand Canyon for the first time if you've only ever read about it or seen pictures of it on a slideshow or something. You've read about it. Sure, it's big. It's a big canyon. It's very big. And then you actually go there and you stand on the rim. And holy mother of God, it is overwhelming. Pictures do not do it justice. The Trump administration's unprecedented and unrepentant corruption is a lot like that. There has never been anything like it, and not even close. There's nothing even close to the size of the corruption this administration engages in.
So in no particular order, let's start with this from Mediaite. Quote, Fox News host Laura Ingraham, one of the network's most prominent primetime personalities, has been named as a board member of a new special purpose acquisition company, or SPAC, led by Donald Trump Jr. Colombier Acquisition Corp. 3, a blank check firm, will seek to merge with a private company as part of a plan to, quote, fund the next chapter of American exceptionalism and make America grow again, according to an SEC filing. Colombier filed for an initial public offering on Friday, putting up 26 million shares of the company at $10 each, Reuters reported. As Clay Rank on Blue Sky said, if Rachel Maddow had done business deals with Hunter Biden, Laura Ingraham would have never talked about anything else for the rest of her life.
Yes. One more small addition to the giant mountain of evidence that these people are all liars and hypocrites, and they give a shit what anyone thinks.
Yep.
Now, speaking of corruption in plain sight, and the pun is intended, we know you've already heard about this, but it bears repeating. This is from the New York Times. Quote, Coast Guard buys 2 private jets for Nome, costing $172 million.
I want one.
Yeah, got a spare. Could you loan it to me? Public documents show the Department of Homeland Security has contracted to purchase a pair of top-of-the-line Gulfstream jets for the secretary and other top officials, unquote.
And of course, you've also heard about this from ABC News in July of 2025. That was just a couple months ago.
Yeah.
The Trump administration has accepted the unconditional donation of a luxury jet from Qatar, with no stipulation on what should happen to the aircraft after President Donald Trump leaves office, according to an agreement reviewed by ABC News. The Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU, was signed earlier this month by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and Qatar's Minister of State for Defense Affairs. The deal paves the way for the Air Force to begin the process of retrofitting the plane, dubbed a flying palace because of its luxurious finishes for the president's use. Mm-hmm. Sources told ABC News earlier this year that after the president left office, the plan called for transferring ownership of the plane to the Trump Presidential Library Foundation, unquote.
And this week, as you know, Trump just went ahead and stuck his hands into our taxpayers' pockets to the tune of $230 million. This is from the New Republic. Quote, Trump's vile new $230 million shakedown of DOJ just got even worse. It's bad enough that Trump wants, and the DOJ will likely fork over, this tribute payment. Now get this, it can probably be done at first without even being revealed publicly. Donald Trump is rapidly transforming the presidency into a massive bribe delivery system. For convenience sake, let's refer to this going forward as Trump's presidential BDS. This is underscored by the jarring news that Trump is demanding that the Justice Department pay him $230 million in compensation related to various federal actions against him. As the New York Times reports, Trump submitted claims in 2023 and 2024 seeking damages, boo-hoo, he had his fifis hurt, stemming from the investigations into Russian interference in 2016 and his prosecution for stealing classified documents at the end of his first term, both of which he certainly did. Now that Trump is president again, he is still demanding those payments, sources told the Times. And one of the officials who would decide the matter is Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, wait for it, one of Trump's former personal attorneys. Ethics experts point out that Trump now appears in a position to command his subordinates to hand him $230 million in taxpayer money. As the Times delicately put it, Trump expects this to happen, but it gets even worse. In an interview, Representative Jamie Raskin, who is investigating this as ranking Democrat on the House Judiciary Committee, said his staff's research indicates that these payments can probably be made confidentially at first with no immediate public disclosure. Our reading is that even though this is a private settlement, it doesn't have to be disclosed anywhere until there is an accounting of where all the money has gone at the end of the year, Raskin told me, unquote.
So that's just like when Republicans investigated Planned Parenthood and found out they were doing nothing and they slipped the report under the door between Christmas and New Year's.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same thing. Now, I think what's going on here, I know that he demanded this a few years ago, but I think his addled brain has forgotten about it. And this is my guess, is that Pam Bondi reminded him because she knows she's going to get jack shit from going after Comey and definitely going after Schiff, because they've already announced that the investigation into Schiff is paused.
Right.
Because they can't find anything. And today, Jack Smith came forward and said, "I'm be happy to testify before Congress as long as it's on camera."
Uh-huh.
Which is like Hunter Biden showing up before the committee saying, "I'm ready to testify."
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, all the Republicans shit their pants.
Mm-hmm.
No one wants a repeat of 11 hours of Hillary Clinton telling the truth.
Right.
On television.
That's bad. That's just a bad look.
That's very bad. Well, their whole administration is propaganda video.
That's all it
is. As long as it's not on TV, then it doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. So Pam Bondi is up against it because she's going to have fail after fail after fail after fail.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that they say there's enough there for Bolton. Bolton actually sent some classified information via
Fuck
email.
Bolton.
But his emails, you know.
Yeah. Screw Bolton. I don't
screw
care.
Bolton. Exactly. Screw Bolton. So my point is that I believe, this is my guess, is that Pam Bondi reminded Trump, you know what? We owe you $230 million for all the trouble you went through.
That's right. That's the least we can do is give you a lot of money.
We're working on making sure you get that. So that when all of these fails happen and he starts to get upset, she can say, you know, we're getting ready to cut you a check.
Yeah.
And then she keeps her job for another month, which, they're all these cabinet members are hanging by a thread every day.
Yeah. And all of them are swinging around, waving their dicks in the air, trying to remind everyone not to look over in the corner where the Epstein files are.
Where the Epstein files are. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So Trump has taken bribes from other countries. He has extorted bribes from universities and media corporations. He's doing special tariff carve-outs for companies that come and kiss his ass or give him money. He's chin deep in completely corrupt crypto scams. And using tariff threats, he's constantly juicing the stock market and making who knows how many billions of dollars for himself, his family, and his cronies.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, there's this.
Hello, everyone. It's your favorite president, Donald J. Trump, here to introduce something really special. I think you're going to love it. My new Trump watches. We're doing quite a number with watches, and the quality to me is very important. The Trump Victory Tourbillon. This isn't just any watch. It's one of the best watches made. It's a tourbillon watch with almost 200 grams of gold and more than 100 real diamonds. That's a lot of diamonds. I love gold. I love diamonds. We all do. Only 147 of these extraordinary watches will ever exist in the world, and owning one puts you in a very exclusive club. I have watch number one, and I'm going to keep it. It's mine, and that's the way I want to have it. Each watch is numbered and extremely rare, a true collector's item, and it includes a personal letter signed by me. Get your Trump watch right now. Go to gettrumpwatches.com. It's Trump time.
And do you know who does not give one tiny stinky shit about any of this? Can you guess? It's Trump voters. They don't give a shit about this stuff at all. The prices of everything that Trump promised he'd lower on day one have all skyrocketed, while Trump and his pals are looting the federal government with both hands. And all you'll hear from MAGA at this point is fake news or, what about Hunter Biden? Huh? What about Hunter Biden's laptop? Trump, I swear, could go to their homes and take out their gold fillings with a hammer and chisel, and they'd go right back to praising him as a savvy businessman who knows what he's doing. Sure, there may be some pain now. Ow, ow, my teeth hurt. Ow, ow, quit hitting me in the face. But, Trump, once he turns the economy around that Biden destroyed, they're all going to get brand new teeth, diamond teeth. And it won't cost them a penny, Blue Gal. Not one thin dime.
I was listening to Hal Sparks cover Glenn Beck on gold, and it is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's that kind of, it's not going to cost us a penny because all the gold at Fort Knox is valued at FDR prices.
Right. You don't realize that Trump has a super genius plan behind everything.
Yes, right.
Yeah. And in 2
all
weeks,
of this stuff that he would never say if a Democrat was in the White House.
Oh God, no!
He's making bargaining after bargaining after bargaining with his listeners. Yeah.
And he'll never pay for it. There'll never be a price for him.
Oh. And this is the return on the billions of dollars the right invested over the past 50 years, relentlessly demonizing Democrats. Because no matter how brutally Republicans screw over their base, the one thing the base knows above everything else, because it's tattooed to the inside of their skulls, is that Democrats are always, always worse. And this stopped being a matter of fact and policy a long time ago. Now it's just a matter of faith.
They know
Well,
it.
you know, we know we're charging groceries, but we just have to believe in Donald Trump.
I know. And you know, I just can't imagine ever voting for a Democrat because they're baby-killing communist scum.
Demon
And
rat.
everyone,
Yeah,
they're
right,
demon rats.
right.
It's just impossible. They've walked themselves into a corner they can't get out of ever.
Right.
So they're trying to make a nest in there and out of lies and bullshit and Donald Trump's promises.
The other long-term investment that's paying big dividends is the legacy media's decades-long fetishization of false equivalence, what we call the big lie of both sides do it. The checked-out, undecided voter is perpetually in tears, but I'm an independent.
Mm-hmm.
Tortured by their own article of faith that since both sides are always roughly equally awful, how can they possibly choose?
You can't possibly choose. There's no, how can I possibly choose? Be like Matthew Dowd in 2016 and just say the corrupt duopoly is the problem.
That makes you sound smart.
Makes you sound smart. And, you know, it makes you employable for a while until it all goes south. Fortunately for Democrats, just in time, Blue Gal, like the cavalry coming over the hill, there's this brand new genius strategy that is setting the pundit world on fire. On fuego, baby. And there's no acronym for it yet. But among the media glitterati, it's called, and I quote, Democrats need to move to the center. Yep, yes, indeedy. Apparently, there are just tens of millions of potential voters just sitting out there on this magical, enchanted island called the center. They're just waiting for anyone to come over and pick them up, just like gold laying in the streets, Blue Gal. This is the money quote from an article entitled, The Partisans Are Wrong, Moving to the Center is the Way to Win. That's by the country's greatest arbiter of what the common man out here in the heartland truly believes, the New York fucking Times Editorial Board. Quote, moving to the center would enable Democrats to confront Trump more aggressively and effectively because voters would see them as credible. Bravo. Fuck you. Fuck you with a steam hammer. Yep.
Slow clap for the New York fucking Times editorial board having the gall to even write that. I swear to God. Now, we here at the Professional Left Podcast are left with a choice because it's his birthday next week, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Should we let Driftglass quote from the many thousands of posts he has written over the years vivisecting this idiotic idea and have like a 4-hour podcast retrospective of Driftglass going after the both sides don't lie?
20 years. I'll tell you what, I'll just read the titles of them. That should take an hour.
That'll still be a 3.5-hour podcast.
Yep.
Now, obviously, these posts have had little to no effect whatsoever on establishment fortresses like the New York fucking Times editorial board.
Yeah.
Or maybe we should let other people have a turn. But why not both, Driftglass?
Yeah.
Driftglass, take it away.
Well, first, let's talk about Chicago, April 13th, 1992, Blue Gal. It was a glorious day, beautiful day, not a cloud in the sky. That's the day when repair work on a bridge spanning the Chicago River went horribly wrong, causing a huge metaphor to flood the disused utility tunnels beneath the river. The resulting breached, flooded basements, facilities, and the underground Chicago pedway throughout the Chicago Loop. Water everywhere. The Loop and the financial district were evacuated, and electrical power and gas were interrupted in most of the area as a precaution. Trading at the Chicago Board of Trade building and Chicago Mercantile Exchange ended mid-morning, which never happens, as water seeped into their basements. At its height, some buildings, which had basement and sub-basement and sub-sub-basement, like I think the Marshall Fields building had 40 feet of water in their lower levels. Just wiped out all kinds of things. And I was downtown during this time, and it was really eerie because nothing was visible on the surface. There was almost no traffic, very quiet. If you were going to shoot a movie about an abandoned city or a post-apocalyptic Chicago, this would have been the ideal time to do that. And there's also some fun facts I would talk more about at a later date about how some attorneys for the Great Lakes Dredge and Dock Company, that's the company that caused the breach, really earned their bonus by invoking admiralty law since the Chicago River is a navigable waterway. And this, plus some other little things they dug up, greatly limited the Great Lakes Dredge and Dock Company's liability. So, way to go, attorneys, man. They found some laws that protected their company. But we go back to the flood. Because the river was just draining into this giant hole at a rate they couldn't stop, workers just threw everything they could lay their hands on at this 20-foot hole. They threw in bags of concrete. They grabbed old mattresses, any kind of debris they could lay their hands on. They even tried using the lock and dam system, lowering the level of the Chicago River to try to stop it from flooding. And nothing worked. Nothing worked. Now, as promised, here comes the metaphor portion of our show. Centrism and both siderisms are the tunnels and basements connecting every major legacy media corporation and every very serious pundit. And for decades, they never really had to worry about the huge interconnected infrastructure beneath their businesses. Now, occasionally there would be cracks. Some criticism would seep in. There's perhaps an Iraq-sized hole over here or a Katrina-sized hole over there. But all in all, there was nothing they couldn't easily ignore or patch up with some David Brooks spackle or some Peggy Noonan caulk. You know, just don't worry about it. And then came Trump, Trump 1.0, which was bad. Okay, it was very bad, but it was containable. And then came Biden, and everyone could relax a little and go back to endlessly bitching about both sides and the vital center and third parties because we were all safe now. And then came Trump 2.0, which blew a 20-foot hole in their both sides and centrist bullshit below the waterline, and in rushed every horror the left had warned them would attend a second Trump term, and some that nobody predicted. I, for one, did not predict that RFK Jr. would gut the CDC and cut cancer research for children. I never would have predicted that. I know these people are monsters, but I didn't have any idea how monstrous they would be from day one. And right now, the legacy media is throwing every ridiculous centrist think piece it can lay its hands on at that hole, desperately trying to plug it back up so they can get back to business as usual.
There are now federal officers knocking on the doors of some U.S. citizen protesters who were prominent or posted lots of things to social media or in some other ways got the attention of Kristi Noem. Fascism, that's what it is, authoritarian fascism.
Yep.
So Adam Bonica from the Data for Democracy Substack provides a long and data-heavy refutation to the Times entitled, "The New York Times argues moving to the center is the way to win, but the data shows the strategy is tapped out." Mm-hmm. And he's got a lot of poll numbers, a lot of charts. He says, Democrats already run moderates in nearly every swing district. It's not enough. A data-driven response to the case for centrism as a core electoral strategy, unquote. We're going to skip past all the niceties to the conclusions. Mm-hmm. The raw data on who wins and loses tells a story that directly challenges the New York Times editorial's narrative. Examining Democratic performance in competitive House districts from 2016 to 2024, and this is a case where starting history in 2016 actually makes sense.
Right.
Because you're talking about the era of Trump and whether you should move to the center with MAGA in charge of the Republican Party. Okay. Mm-hmm. We usually are against that.
Right.
But in this case, arguing whether you should move to the center or not, starting in 2016 makes total sense. Mm-hmm. And this study reveals two key facts. Number one, Democrats are already running moderates in most swing districts. Duh.
Yeah. Look, our own congressperson.
Yes. Nikki Budzinski.
Is it total, farm bill, crop bill moderate?
Yep. In those same districts, progressive incumbents had higher win rates, 93.3%, than their moderate counterparts, 83.6%. Looking at who lost is even more telling. The graveyard of defeated Democratic incumbents is full of moderates, not progressives. Brett Ashford, Ben McAdams, Tom O'Halloran, Susan Wild, and Max Rose among them. Now, I want everyone to listen really carefully to this sentence. There is a little bit of math in it, but it's not complicated. Of the 22 Democratic incumbents who lost their seats between 2016 and 2024, 22 Democrats lost their seats. Got that? 22. How many were moderates, Drift Class? 21.
21 of them. 21 of them. Mm-hmm.
21 out of 22.
It's a death sentence.
It's a death sentence to be a moderate.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps most tellingly, the piece never grapples, the piece meaning the New York Times editorial, never grapples with institutional gatekeeping, like from the New York Times editorial board.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
The absence of progressive winners in swing districts may tell us more about who gets to run rather than who can win. Party committees, donors, and consultants, and like we said, the New York fucking Times, have already decided that progressives shouldn't compete in swing districts. But when progressive incumbents do compete in tough districts, they actually show higher success rates than their moderate counterparts. Mm-hmm. And I think you and I know why, Drift Class. That's what brings out voters.
Yes, it brings out the base, fired up, ready to vote, excited, plus other people.
Yeah, who realize, oh, I could get better health care or I could get better housing. Yeah. This guy's speaking language, this candidate is speaking to me as a populist candidate, a progressive candidate who wants to change things.
By the way, deciding that progressives shouldn't compete in swing districts is the Bulwark's business plan.
Absolutely.
So that is absolutely the advice they are constantly giving, which is, this is from...
the other thing you've got to remember is for independents whose lives are shitty, what they want is for you to promise change.
Right.
Promise that government is going to come in and make your life better.
Right.
And Republicans do that all the time. They lie all the time, say, we're just going to let you have freedom.
Right. Well, and that's what we talked about with the MAGA voters, and all the prices are skyrocketing. They don't care. They don't notice because in their brain, the prime directive is never, ever, ever vote Democrat. Never, under any circumstances, or your soul is in peril. And so they've already built that into the system. They've already created voters who are so averse to voting for their own interests, they'll never do it, which leaves nothing but the weirdos in the middle. Yeah. This is from the same article. Quote, "What is this debate really about? This debate may seem academic, but it points to a fundamental disagreement over political strategy. That's why it's important. The view in the editorial is that Democrats must accept the political battlefield as it is and find messengers who can best navigate that terrain. It's a strategy of accommodation, one that asks how to win within the constraints of a system many voters believe is fundamentally rigged. My reading of the evidence points to a different conclusion. When the electoral gains from moderation have already been exhausted, when Democrats are already running moderates in nearly every competitive district and still losing, the task isn't to moderate harder. It's to give voters a reason to believe politics can deliver real change," unquote. Just exactly what you said, Blue Gal.
Yeah, bingo. Mm-hmm. Yep. Now, this is funny.
Yeah.
Ryan Wilkins at McSweeney's delivers a similar message with fewer charts and more snark. And this is a really funny article.
Yeah.
Quote, "American politics today can seem to be dominated by extremes. President Trump is carrying out far-right policies rooted in white supremacy and open brutality, while some of the country's highest-profile Democrats identify as democratic socialists.
Yeah.
Two exactly equal sides to the same coin. To those of you who are not writing this editorial, moderation probably feels a little outdated. It is not, so stop thinking that. Candidates who don't exhibit or reflect real beliefs from both parties continue to fare better in most elections than those farther to the right or left. This pattern may be the strongest one in electoral politics today, but it is one that many partisans try to obscure and many voters do not fully grasp. From our vantage point as a fundamentally innumerate body of milquetoast thinkers who are wrong about everything, holding fewer sincere beliefs is the key to electoral success. The evidence is vast because we say it is," unquote.
Yeah.
That's absolutely a David Brooks column.
And it's this, well, voters want candidates who will fight for them, but they have to be moderate and move towards the center and not believe in anything. And this is just pure consultant pundit gibberish that should have died 30 years ago.
And all of the pundits these days are marketing themselves for the Iowa primary.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and they think Iowa voters don't want housing or health care.
Right.
In the face of this vast imaginary data, Mr. Wilkins offers this bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it works out for him.
It's very bold.
Very bold. Quote, by offering a position, but not imbuing the position with real beliefs, a Democratic candidate can enjoy the benefits of running in the race without risking being criticized for supporting an idea hated by his, her, their political opponents, who themselves manifest beliefs of no coherence whatsoever. It's a win-win, except when you lose. Even Mr. Trump highlights the pattern. Extreme as he is in many ways, he moved the Republican Party toward the center on several key issues by not knowing what a coherent line of thinking would actually resemble. We ask, why aren't the Democrats looking into candidates who can change the party's platform primarily by not knowing what was in it to begin with? To which I would add, except for the Ukraine plank.
That's right. Except don't touch the Ukraine plank. Everything else is just
no, change the Ukraine plank to be friendlier to Putin.
And It isn't just changing the platform. It's changing the platform every couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Just changing what you want. Oh, this, up, down, left, right, yes, no. Trump will just say anything. And the Republicans will just say anything that they think the crowd in front of them at that moment wants to hear. And that's what the New York Times is counseling Democrats to do when they say embracing the center and giving Trump credit for it.
One more paragraph from this McSweeney's hilarious article.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Trump's victory over Ms. Harris was telling in another way. Not having ideas is the most effective way of having them. To wit, moderation that has worked best in recent years is not a sober 20th century centrism that promises to protect the status quo, but rather a chaotic 6-7 centrism that favors the edges. It is more combative and populist, the silent scream, if you will. This scream tends to be left of center on economics and right of center on social issues. It's massive on the inside, but tiny when you hold it. It's smooth to the touch, but constructed only of sharp corners. That's right, it's nothing. The precise thing that people don't know they want. And in a political world where it's appropriate to debate the humanity of the constituency, thinking nothing is positively everything. Unquote.
Bravo.
Again, bravo.
Bravo.
And it's been this way for a very long time. Take it away, Robert Reich.
Democrats need to grow a spine. I've been around politics for 50 years. I've witnessed this again and again. Milquetoast Democrats lose to Republicans, have an existential crisis, and then claim it's time to
move to the center. The Democratic Party should move to the center.
I think they need to move to the center.
When Hubert Humphrey lost to Nixon, Democrats said it was time for the party to move to the center. When Jimmy Carter lost to Reagan, move to the center. When Walter Mondale lost to Reagan, just a little bit further. When Michael Dukakis lost to George H.W. Bush, center. I saw it up close and personal in 1994 when Democrats got walloped in the midterms. After that, President Bill Clinton announced that
the era of big government is over.
What did he mean by that? Policies that seemed politically expedient or moderate at the time, but had devastating consequences. Cuts to welfare programs and the deregulation of Wall Street. With every big loss to Republicans since, where have the Democratic establishment, donors, and talking heads claimed the party needed to go?
Center.
But where is the center anymore between Democrats and Republicans? Halfway between truth and lies? Between democracy and oligarchy? Between freedom and fascism? By moving to the so-called center, Democrats have failed to fight the forces that led us to Donald Trump. Widening inequality, economic insecurity, and the unchecked political power of corporations and the rich.
And to all of that, we feel we must add, even though we are wildly overmatched and outspent 100 to 1, liberals must, to the best of our ability, hold up to ridicule two other institutions that have led us to this horrible place: the conservative media and the legacy media. Because you know how you can tell this is an entirely pundit and consultant-driven strategy? You know how you can figure that out? Because absolutely no one is insisting that MAGA, the MAGA mob, move to the center. It always has to be the Democrats that must change, compromise, and accommodate. In fact, this is where dipping into my archives is painful and weird and sometimes pay dividends. In fact, the only time I have ever found anyone suggesting the Republican Party should move to the center was April 13th, 2003, in an Intelligence Squared debate that was aired on National Public Radio. The subject was, will the GOP die if it doesn't seize the center? Oh no. The opposing sides were as follows. For the resolution, yes, the GOP should seize the center, were Mr. David Brooks of the New York Times and Mickey Edwards. Opposing the resolution, or hell no, the GOP should flee that weak and mushy center and be its crazy self, you find Laura Ingraham and Ralph Reed. Gentlemen, start your engines. And for the record, the motion was defeated, and the team of psycho Keith Olbermann ex-girlfriend and babyface Bible grifter won the debate. So, this is from me writing about all this in June of 2014, before Donald Trump ever showed up. Quote, it was a long debate among unsavory types that cannot be compressed into 140 characters. Maybe that's why, when four leading conservatives sat down across from each other, they made it perfectly clear that they know damn well who really makes up the base of the conservative movement and the GOP. Yes, I watch such things so you won't have to. And guess what? It turns out the movement's rank and file are exactly the same wretched hive of scum and villainy that liberals like us have been telling you about for decades, and the conservative brain cast knows it. Sure, they dance around for a while, but eventually Mickey Edwards gets to the point. And this is a quote from him. The Republican Party we have today could disappear and be replaced by a range of little subsets, all these other, a Christian right party, a libertarian party, a no government party, a no tax party, a gun owners party, a no gays and no immigrants party, each one with its own little small niche of true believers. And that is the conversation we will never, ever have at the national level. That's me. And the reason that it doesn't matter how many tea leaves and goat entrails and academic papers David Brooks pours excitedly over to predict his awesome Whig tomorrow, because you can't make bricks without straw. And you can't make a political movement without people. And the plain, cold, ugly truth of the matter is that the right is really nothing but the sum of its parts. And its parts are grotesque. And the reason we will never have that conversation is because floating around along above it all at the hippy-tippy top of the movement, you'll find people like Mr. David Brooks busily making an obscenely profitable living by ensuring that every time the subject is broached, it's smothered to death under an avalanche of both-siderism. They all know it. And they have all known it all along. This includes all of your favorite Never Trump friends. They all goddamn well knew what the base was like for decades because they all feed at the same trough, all depending on the same mob of paranoids and morally truncated imbeciles to pack their pews, pump up their political muscle, read their columns, buy their books, watch their TV shows, and in general make it possible for them to enjoy lives of tremendous prosperity and power. The real difference between them is that Laura Ingraham and Ralph Reed want the GOP to drop the charade, like Trump did, and start acting proudly and publicly in the same way they act in private. While the traditional party apparatchiks like Brooks and Edwards are much more deeply invested in the Straussian noble lie theory of governance and are thus horrified by that thought. Sure, we have the gun nuts and the fundies. Yes, we've made the party of Lincoln a lavishly appointed safe house for the racist and the paranoid. Hell, we've set up an entire political media empire designed to do nothing more than flatter them and sanctify their idiocy and feed their bigotry and rage back to them as patriotism and intelligence. But for fuck's sake, don't talk about it so loud or you ruin everything, unquote. That was me back in 2014. And for convenience for my future self, it turns out, I reduced this nearly 2-hour-long slog into 4 summary sentences. Shorter, David Brooks, and Mickey Edwards. See, if you let the rank and file of the tribe that rubs shit in its hair out in public, you'll scare the squares and the kids, and we need them to win elections. The weirdos will scare the normies away. But Ingram and Reed counter, conservatism was awesome and doing great until W fucked it all up. And Shorter, Brooks, and Edwards, but that's not how it happened. And Shorter, Ingram, and Reed, Reagan, Reagan, Reagany, Reagan, 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 unquote. So back in 2014, I concluded the following. And that, in a nutshell, is what the conservative Civil War is all about and where its actual future lies, in the outcome of a pissing match between the movement's upper class and its upper middle class over who gets the keys to the imbecile base they both conspired to create and what exactly they want to use that electoral battering ram to accomplish, unquote. And now, 11 years later, we know which side won and how and why they won. We also know why no very serious person even bothers to insist that MAGA must compromise and MAGA must accommodate and respect the wishes of Democrats, that MAGA must, move to the center. Because there is no center. In the political battle space, there are MAGA voters who have devolved into nothing but reprogrammable meatbags. There are checked out voters who have been bludgeoned by decades of legacy media propaganda into believing that both sides are equally awful, and they're constantly whining they need a bespoke third party that meets their exact preferences and specifications, which, if they ever bother to fucking look, overlaps about 90% with the platform of the Democratic Party. And then there's us, forced repeatedly to fight this battle on two fronts, concocted from two different but interdependent lies.
Yep. This is why you will not hear the mainstream media talking much about the 71% of America's polled that want the ACA extended.
Right.
And finally, there is that chorus of pundits and media corporations desperate to conjure a political center out of thin air by doing shit like this. This is from Notes from the Circus, quote, Barry Weiss and the Tyranny of False Balance. When why does the country think you're biased becomes surrender dressed as sophistication. Barry Weiss walked into 60 Minutes and asked the staff, why does the country think you're biased? The question stunned them into awkward silence. And it should have, not because it caught them off guard, but because it reveals everything wrong with what passes for journalistic sophistication in our moment and everything wrong with Barry Weiss. Let's be precise about what Weiss is doing. She's not asking whether 60 Minutes is actually biased. She's not evaluating their coverage against standards of accuracy, fairness, or adherence to the facts. She's not actually looking at anything 60 Minutes is doing at all. She's asking why the country perceives bias, which treats that perception as fact, requiring accommodation regardless of whether the perception corresponds to reality. This is false balance perfected. The sophisticated move that treats Trump and his allies say you're biased as equivalent evidence to actual journalistic practice. The epistemic surrender that makes public opinion shaped by coordinated disinformation campaigns, algorithmic manipulation, and deliberate attacks on legitimate journalism into the arbiter of what counts as fair coverage, unquote. So Donald Trump continually calling reporters fake news in the Oval Office.
Right.
Then causes the corporate bean counters to go to their reporters and saying, why does the public think you're reporting this wrong?
And let's be clear. This is something that drives me nuts because pundits do it all the time.
Yeah.
Why does the country think you're biased?
Yeah.
The whole country? All 338 million of us? I don't think I think what you're talking about is why do MAGA morons think you're biased? And why do those checked out, undecided voters who pay no fucking attention to anything think you're biased, except pundits who keep telling them over and over again that they're biased?
Yeah.
This is absolutely perfectly right. This is false balance perfected.
Yep.
It really is. This is the result of decades and decades of lies from the legacy media and from conservative media. So finally, In lieu of a news roundup, and the news is mostly bad, let's all ask our elected Democrats, some of whom listen to this podcast, at least one of whom I believe quoted me.
Yeah, at a No Kings rally.
Yeah, so I'm kind of pleased by that.
Yeah, that was nice. He is a podcast listener, and
listener and a friend of ours.
He's a podcast listener, and said you can't stand on both sides of the Edmund Pettus Bridge. He said that at his speech on No King's Day. Yeah,
and you know, I won't charge him this time, but next time.
He's very generous with us, and we appreciate him so much.
He's a good egg, and he's one of the good ones. So let's all ask our elected Democrats to learn an important lesson from Trump's unilateral decision to further desecrate our White House by demolishing its East Wing, which has almost certainly violated any number of laws and acts and doctrines and traditions. It's the same imperial mindset that Richie Daley had, mayor of Chicago, when he unilaterally decided to bulldoze first Meigs Field and then Soldier Field in Chicago. It's the same mindset W. Bush had when he ordered the invasion of Iraq, or Julius Caesar crossing the Rubicon, which is why crossing the Rubicon became an expression meaning the taking of an irrevocable decision. Once the bulldozers roll and the walls start to come down, once the troops cross the border and start shooting, it's too late for debate or second guessing. The tyrant who makes the irrevocable decision forces everyone else to deal with a new reality not of their choosing. This is something that Trump does every fucking day, which is why talk of compromise or moving to some non-existent center has become especially ludicrous. Because compromise and reconciliation and mutual trust that agreements will be honored are peacetime things, and we are not at peace. There is a war going on in this country. It might be mostly a Cold War, but it's real, and it's here every day. And any talk of reconciliation and civility with an enemy that is neither civil nor wants reconciliation is ridiculous. And that's what Democrats can learn from Julius Caesar, Richard M. Daley, and Donald Trump. Stop looking for permission and consensus. When you have power, any power at all, use it ruthlessly in any way you can to cripple the fascists and spoil their plans. Once they are driven from power, then we can talk of peace and parliamentary procedure. Until then, it's every patriot's duty to fuck them up any way you can. As Captain Mal says in Serenity, so no more running. I aim to misbehave.
Yep. There was a writing prompt I came across this week of, you are in Atlanta during the Civil War and the city is on fire. What do you do next? And my answer in my writing that I was doing was light another match.
Yeah. My answer is change the channel because I don't really like Gone with the Wind. It's not,
it's not your style. Huh?
Not my style, no.
Hey, each week we post to our Patreon page and website an internet kitty sent in by you, the listeners. This week we have two internet kitties, Eddie and Shadow. They came to their forever home from the Baltimore SPCA, and we just love shelter kitties. Now, in this picture, they're sitting one to a chair, looking out the window, and on the window there are kitty print curtains. So you know their forever home is tailored to them, as it should be. And of course, Eddie and Shadow eat freshly poured cat food, our fake sponsor. Whether you serve Pet Store Perfection or Dollar Store Drek, your kitties will sit at the kitty curtain window and demand that the food they eat is only freshly poured.
Freshly poured, freshly poured. Oh my Lord, it's freshly poured.
You can visit Eddie and Shadow at our Patreon page, patreon.com/proleftpod, or our website, proleftpod.com. And you can send your internet kitty, dog, or other pet to us at our email address, proleftpodcast@gmail.com, where you can write to both of us. Feel free to write us. We love hearing from you. Be aware that if you write to us at any of our addresses, we reserve the right to read your email or U.S. Postal Service Go Postal Unions letter on the air unless you say otherwise.
First, I'd like to thank my wife, who I don't know if you can tell is feeling under the weather, is fighting off a nasty summer cold.
I blame the children.
Yeah, because, you know, they brought disease.
We had all three kids here this weekend for Junior Dudes 27th birthday.
So we
For
did.
the first time in 2 years, we've had all 3 kids in the same house.
And now
And none of them got sick.
now it's a fucking disease factory here. So
But none of them had even a sniffle.
of course not. Of course not. But thank you for doing this, Luke. I know you'd rather be in bed with 9
I'm
covers
doing
on
better
you.
today than I was yesterday, so
Yeah.
the podcast must go on.
You know what might help a little bit with your cold is some gourmet coffee, perhaps some gourmet coffee. Which reminds me, we have this gourmet coffee guideline. See the segue there, Blue Gout? Seamless.
I see it.
Goddamn seamless. If you're able to treat yourself to an espresso-based beverage, we ask you to consider treating us to one as well. This isn't charity; it's just how we support the work we do. If you can spare $5 a month or more, we'd be very grateful for your support at patreon.com/proleftpod. A no-cost way of helping the show to help us continue to grow is by sharing the show on social media. If you love this podcast, introduce it to a friend. They might get along really well. And thank you so much for doing that.
Hey, Driftglass, how are the Internet Kitties doing this week?
Well, look out, the Internet Kitties say anyone who comes trick-or-treating in a Resistance frog costume gets double candy.
Let's think about living. Think about living. Let's think about loving. Think about loving. Let's think about the hooping and the hopping and the popping and the loving, lovey-dovey. Let's forget about the wine and the crying, the shooting and the dying, and the fellow with the switchblade knife. Let's think about living. Let's think about life.
The Professional Left podcast is recorded under a Creative Commons license. Copyright 2024-25, GGBG Productions.